In this session, we would be talking about information system stakeholders. Now, if we think of an information system, we usually think that the people that are involved are only the users, the people that use the system. Maybe the customers, the people that would benefit from the system. But that's not just it. There are several other stakeholders that we need to consider, especially when we develop an information system or an application. You might call the information system as an application as well. Here is what we think about stakeholders. A stakeholder is any person who has an interest in an existing or new information systems, whether they are technical or non-technical workers, meaning that a person or maybe a party, for instance, who would be involved, who would be affected by the information system. If it's an e-commerce system, for instance, then the stakeholder might include people from outside of the company. For instance, they might be including the customers, or maybe including the suppliers, because those people would be affected. Because they're affected, they have an interest in the information system. And thus, they need also to be considered whether the customers would like using the system or not, whether the suppliers would obtain the needed information from their side of the business process or not. Now here we can see that there are different focuses here. Okay, so first here is a focus on people, the people who are involved in the development of an information system. Okay, so now we are talking more specifically about the stakeholders of information system development. You can see here, this large chunk is the systems analyst. And here you see we have the system owner, system user, designer, and builders. Now, who are these people? If you think of building an information system, like building a house, then the system owner would be the people who own the house. Let's say there's a married couple which wants to build a house. Now, the father and the mother would be the system owner. Of course, as the house owner. Of course, as the owner, they have to know why they want to make the house. They want to know the functions of the house. Is it just for residential purposes, just for the people, for the family members to stay, to live in? Or would it also be used for an office? Or would they be selling things in that house also? So in the front porch or the front part of the house, there might be a small shop, for instance. Or it might be a small office, home office. So that's what the system owner has to figure out. And they're the ones that have that vision. So also in the information system perspective, the system owner are the people that would be championing, that would be asking for the development of the information system. They know what the purpose of the system is. They know what the goals are, why you need the system, what the system needs to be able to do, for instance, and then they know the cost and benefits. How much are they prepared to pay for the information systems? And what are the benefits? Maybe increase in productivity, maybe increase in revenue, increase in profitability that they would be getting from their investment in the information system. Just like if you were to build a house, then you would need to know how much money you're willing to spend in making that house. And the benefits, would you be selling things in the house or just for staying, for living there? And the second party would be the system users. In a house, the system users would be the family members that would be staying there. If it's a hotel, then they would be the guests of the hotel. So for instance, in a house, the children would be the system users, would be the house users. They would be deciding, we would be making the house based on how many children the family has, whether the children is how many boys, how many girls, the size that is needed for each person. What about the father or mother-in-law, or the parents of the owners, whether they would be frequently staying there or not. That would be showing later on how many rooms you need, how many bathrooms you need, what's the size of the house. Also, the system users in the information system, they would include the data workers, the people, for instance, inputting the data, the managers that would be utilizing the data, also the let's say the cashiers, the people working in the warehouse, the people working in the factory. Those are all the system users. And the system users are very important because they are the ones who know what the system is. They are the ones who know what information they need or what data they need in order to benefit from the information systems. Okay, and here you have the system analyst. The system analyst would be the frontline worker in the development of the information system, because they would be going to the system owner, ask about the purpose, the vision, the goals, and so on from the system owner, but then also go to the system user and talk about what the system users need. Also, how to make the user interface, the screen, what they see on the screen, informative, having the correct amount of data, not too much data shown on the screen, but just right, and so on. But when they talk to the system owner and the system users, they would not be talking about technology, so independent of technology. They would just be asking, what do you want? Don't think about how the database would look like. No need to think about the servers that the company needs. Right now, just talk about your needs for the application or for the information system. Okay, after that, after getting information from the owners and from the users, then they would be going to the system designers. The system designers, they are like the architect of the house. They would be, an architect would be designing the floor plan of the house. They would be giving recommendations, or one person, let's say one person needs 9 square meters of space. And what about the lighting? What about the wind flow? What about the columns, the size of the living room, and so on? So they would be giving recommendations on that in the perspective of applications of information systems. Then it would be giving the design of the database, making a design of the user interface, or what you see on the screen of the computer. What input do you need to put into the system? What are the information output that that the system would need to give? So those are the items that the designer would be planning. And then after the system analyst gets the design from the system designer, then they would be going to the system builder. The system builder is like the contractor, the construction company which builds the house. In here, they would be programming. They would be programming the system, also programming the network, programming what's needed in the servers, all of those. So the first part would be non-technological issues. The second part would be technological issues. And all of these people are facilitated by the systems analysts. Now, you might be wondering, how many people would be the system analyst? It might be, and how many people are needed in the team? Well, if it's a very small information system, a very small business application, then the system analyst, the designer, the builder might be one person. It might be the same person that goes to the owner, to the user, and then they would be discussing non-technological matters and then designing it on his own or her own, and building, programming on her own or his own, just one person. It might be the case if it's a small micro company. A micro company, the owner is also the user, and the owner wants to develop his or her own application. Then it might be all these 5 entities might be one person, because it's a self-made information system, self-made business application that's made by the owner and the user themselves. Okay. Or if it's a huge system at a company, large company level, there might be tens of people working as system designers. There might be, let's say, 20 people working as programmers. There might be 8, 10, 15 people or more maybe working as systems analysts. So it really depends on the size, the complexity, and the features of the business application. Now you have the vendors and consultants that would be supporting. For instance, you need several servers. What kind of servers would be needed for this kind of information system? Those would be supplied by the vendors. And you would be supported by information technology and architecture, and then supported also by systems analysis and design methods. Here is a more detailed view of systems owners, systems users, systems designers, and systems builders and systems analysts. Here they would be, the owners would be sponsoring. Sponsoring meaning that they're the ones that, for instance, make the proposal to the company that this type of application is needed for their division, or and then requesting funding for that. Or they might be funding it on their own. So they might be funding the development, the operation, and the maintenance of the system. The users are the ones that are affected by the information system. They're the ones that get the data, input the data, validate the data, enter the data, respond, store, exchange data and information. That's why they are always right, because they would be the ones that are most affected by the application. And then the users might include internal users, the people inside the company that use the system. They might include remote and mobile users. Those are the people that work outside of the company. For instance, they would be directly meeting with the customers, going door to door to the customer's house, like insurance sales executives. There might be external users. External users meaning people who are not part of the company, like the suppliers or the retailers. So they might be also the users as well. And then you have the system designers, which would be translating those non-technical terms into more technical solutions, designing the databases, designing inputs, outputs, how it looks on the screen, the networks, the programs. The system builders would be constructing, would be programming the system, and the analysts would be facilitating all of these other people. Now, there are several types of analysts as well. You have a business analyst, Okay, business analyst would be the person who analyzes the problems that the company has, and then trying to find out how information systems would be able to solve those problems, and how do those information systems solve those problems, what features are needed in the business application, for instance. Okay, and I think we could take a look more on the perspective of these systems analysts in this course. For a successful systems analyst, it's not just about being able to program. Actually, you don't really need to be able to program, but you need to know the logic of programming. You need to know about the capabilities of each programming language. Now, the first skills that is needed by a systems analyst is analytical skills. So you need to have the ability to use systems thinking of everything as a system, thinking that everything has components in it. Everything, you can see what are the building blocks of the organization. That's why it says understanding organizations. And then you would need to know how these different components of the system work with each other, because then you would know about the politics, the dynamics, the human dynamics in the organization. And then you would you should be able to identify what are the problems that actually the company has. The owner might just say that we are losing sales, but that's not the actual problem. You have to find out what is the root problem. Why are they losing sales? Is it because the selling price is too high? Is it because they have too much costs, so their profitability is going down, or they have to sell it at a higher price? Or is it because they're not able to reach the customers that actually do need their products? So you have to identify what is the actual problem that the company has, that the organization has, and then you would need to be able to solve those problems. Now, after that, on top of that, you need technical skills, not meaning that you need to be able to set the wires for the networking. It doesn't mean that you need to be able to do the programming yourselves, but you do need to know about the potential and the limitations of technology. For instance, in this case, for this company, what the company needs is this kind of server. The server needs to be this capacity, or which type of architecture do you need for that company? Okay, and what type of programming language would you be using? What kind of data interchange language? What kind of database support system do you need based on each company's unique case? Now, that's what we mean by technical skills. So being able to choose and to recommend to the company what architecture, what hardware, what software to use. And then you need managerial skills. And I'm sure these analytical skills and managerial skills are something that we should be really good in. Okay, because then we would be needing to manage projects. So we would have to be able to break down the whole project into smaller entities, and then assigning people to work on each of these entities, and then also identify what are the risks that is needed, that would be faced, and what are the changes that need to be made in the organization. Aside from that, because you would be also talking with a lot of people, then you would need interpersonal skills. Interpersonal skills are both written and also oral communications. because you would be giving reports, but also pitching your ideas, presenting your ideas, okay, and then also working together with both non-technical people as well as technical people. You would be responsible for capturing data, designing the, making sure that the data flows to the computer. That's not just a matter of technical perspective, but also how to make the people willing to give the data to the computer, and then make sure that the data is flowing back in a timely fashion. Now, there are several variations of the systems analyst title. It could be, like we mentioned before, a business analyst, which would be specializing in business problem analysis, which is not dependent or independent of technology. It could be a programmer analyst with abilities both as a business analyst as well as a technological analyst. Could be, can call it systems consultant, systems engineer, and information engineer, and so on. So there are several perspectives that you can use to take a look at the systems analyst title. You can see here all other stakeholders would be facilitated by the system analyst. The steering committee, you would be talking with them. The vendors, the programmers, the network administrators, the people who would be designing the interface, the screen, the database administrators, the owners, the users, they would be all facilitated. They would be all interacting with the system analyst. So it's a very challenging job, but it's a very good job to be in, because you would be getting different perspectives from different people, from different stakeholders. So I think that would be a good introduction to what a system analyst does. And in the next meetings, we'll be talking about more on systems analysis, and then later on talking about systems development, applications development, and then talking about applications modeling.